seat, everybody. That didn't wake you up. Not really sure what's going to do it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome this evening. It was awesome. It was awesome. Jimmy and Julie are awesome, aren't they? Okay, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Northern Colorado. My name is Maureen Heller. I'm glad you decided to join us today. We're an inclusive community honoring all faith, traditions, lifestyles, and beliefs. Wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. How marvelous is that? We follow the teaching of Ernest Holmes. He studied the greatest truths of all major religions and created what we call the science of mind. In the science of mind, we believe that through the power of mind, we can create lasting change in our lives. Each Sunday, you will receive practical spiritual tools to support you in handling the challenges of your life so you can experience more joy and more freedom. Who doesn't want more joy and more freedom? Practical tools. Yeah, we'll get to the practical tools in a minute. Let us together say our vision and our mission. Our mission is we are an inclusive community inspiring personal growth, spiritual practice, and a positive way of life. And our vision to awaken humanity to a world that works for everyone. And yeah, I don't know why they asked me to come up here. I never did anything right. One thing I do know, though, that I'm going to get right is there are no kids today, so we're going to skip the kids song. And then we're going to skip ahead to the announcements. Our July outreach is Little Willows. A percentage of our ties each month goes to a different nonprofit organization that provides wonderful work in the community. And this month is Little Willows. They are a small nonprofit in Northern Colorado that exists to support children and families pleased to be able to support them. If you are interested in membership, we have a CSL NOCO one-on-one class Sunday, August 6th from 2 to 4 p.m. CSL NOCO is a one-on-one, is a one-session introduction to CSL NOCO, which makes sense. I'm not quite sure what else we introduced you to, but that's what it says here. I don't write these, I just read these. Anyway, Reverend Lee Alvarado is going to conduct that, facilitate that, and then there will be a membership ceremony following the service, during the service, Sunday, August 6th. So, annual meeting coming up Sunday, August 13th at 3:30 p.m. There it is. In person or on Zoom, we're going to be voting on some changes to our bylaws. We'll be doing reports from 2023 and our vision for 2024. We request that you register, and you can find the registration in an e-link in our newsletter. Or probably you can find it on the website as well in an e-link that says register. Raise Circle, Friday, August 25th. This is a gathering of like-minded souls focused on storytelling, drumming, chanting, dancing, and meditation. If you are a woman or one who orients to this female, we welcome your presence. Please see Linda or Gianna. Neither of them are here. So you can see me, and I'll make something up. That's what I do. When I don't know, I just, if you have questions, ask, we'll get you answers. Karen Drucker is coming to your save the date, Thursday, September 21st. Early bird tickets go on sale August 1st. Look for a link. It's like the first day I've ever done this. Look for a link in our e-newsletter for early bird tickets. They're coming up here pretty quick. I think that's Tuesday. This is August 1st. So, and then the concert will be Thursday, September 21st here. So we're knowing that it's going to be 25 degrees cooler in here. After service dinner gathering, this summer we're taking a break from our Sunday public, and instead we're gathering at a restaurant nearby. Tonight, join us. I'm looking for Catherine to see if really everyone's eating a simmer. You know? Well, we are now. Now we're eating a simmer. I don't know what Doug was planning on going to downtown, sorry, not downtown, down on Drake Street, the northwest corner of Drake and Shields is simmer. So if you'd like to join us for there afterwards, that's where we're going. Yeah, there it is. Somebody else needs to be in. I'm going to give this to you when I leave here, and I'll just let you handle this. And last but not least, everything else that's happening is available right here. CSLNOCO.org. That is us. You can find us on the website. And that's the announcements. So now is the moment we are going to Giver Jay is going to give us an opening prayer and meditation. We're going to have a little singing, vocal action, and then a song, a prayer, all the stuff you expect to happen at church. Okay. I'm over here. Thank you.
Just close your eyes, take a breath, and know that Spirit is here now, filling this room, showing up as each person in the room here with us, showing up as each person who has helped to prepare for this service today, showing up as Reverend Raz's talk. Showing up as love, I'm so grateful for this time together. Our musicians, board members, people in company, workers, knowing that it is all God, it is all perfect, and it is here now. So I simply release these words, knowing that this compassion and emotion, and I simply let it be, and know it is so. And so it is.
Sister of Pete Seeger.
Yeah, that's right. I really want to write "This machine surrounds Pete and forces it to surrender" on my guitar. It's like we have on the way. Anyhow.
Oh, how I long for peace among the peoples and the nations. How I long to hold the plunder of the wonders of creation. Oh, how I long
not quite sure what to tell you. We have a wonderful, amazing, incredible guest speaker. Reverend Lee is on vacation, still, just saying. But we have Reverend Dr. Raz Smith, who is a retired minister from Mile High Church in Denver. And during his ministry at Mile High from 2001 to 2018, he held various roles, including associate minister, facilitator of the Child Journey Ministry, dean of the Holmes Institute, Ministerial Education Institute, and executive director. That, but wait, there's more. He also was a licensed architect for over 29 years before entering ministry in retirement. He enjoys spending time with his wife Tina, who is here joining us, and their grandkids as they travel across the U.S. in their RV and visit Disney parks. Now you know what happens when you retire from being a minister. You get to travel. And so, teaching us perfect peace in turbulent times, Reverend Dr. Will Smith.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Great to see you. Great to be here. I've been at the CSL NoCo in its many variations, other locations, and I think I even spoke in Greeley once. I don't even know if that church is there anymore, but the other part that I love in retirement, speak a couple times a year, just shakes the dust off a little bit. But excuse me, I also get to see all the different ministers that I help train. And Reverend Leah was in my and Tina's practitioner training, as well as ministerial training. And also Reverend Jackie Harris, who was here last week. She was also one of my students. So it's always a joy, but you look great. I don't know if I've ever done a 5 o'clock Sunday service, What is interesting about being retired and speaking at various churches is I used to do 3 every Sunday. We had 8, 10, and 12. Trust me, by 2 o'clock, I was ready for the golf nap. And I'm a golfer, but I could still turn on golf and be asleep by 2:30. So anyway, it's a joy to be here. We were in Minnesota last week, and I saw on Facebook that so was Reverend Leah. I didn't know she was going to be there. She was there for a wedding. We were there for a funeral. Both ends of the spectrum, That's the way it is. So anyway, a joy to be here. I'm happy to share with you what it's like to create perfect peace for yourself during turbulent times. Now, of course, a lot of people think that this turbulent time business is just new to our lifetime. I just wanted to let you know this has been going on a while. Humankind has got this habit of disagreeing and taking out that disagreement on each other. But there is a way, I think, to create that perfect peace within you every day, no matter what's going on around you. So that's my talk. And I believe that as students of New Thought, that's the broader group that we, with Centers for Spiritual Living, Unity Church of Christianity, Unitarian, we're all kind of in this New Thought umbrella. And as students, newcomers, if this is your first day here, that's great. We all had one of those. I sat in the back on my first day, 1 foot in the aisle and 1 butt in the plate. It was kind of like a 12-step meeting in a way for me. But anyway, it was in case I needed to make this quick escape. I was not much of a church person, in my 20s, 30s. And but I changed my mind after hearing the message from Dr. Ernest Holmes, the Science, Mind, and Spirit, and everything that we share at the center. If you're wondering why I talk a little funny, I've got new teeth, and I'm kind of getting used to them. The good news is that was about a month ago. I'm fairly used to the uppers. I don't have lowers yet. That happens Wednesday. I gotta let these gums heal a little bit. And I'm so looking forward to that. I'm so tired of milkshakes. I mean, how can you get tired of milkshakes? Milkshakes, soup, Italian food, everything's soft. You know what I'm craving? Potato chips, you know? I just can't eat any of that kind of stuff. And as I mentioned, you know, this whole business of turbulent times has been going on a while. So I looked back a little bit and I got a couple quotes from Dr. Ernest Holmes. This one is from the Science of Mind magazine. No, it was a Sunday talk that he gave in 1931. So before, I think, just about everybody's time in here. But he said, when the world really desires peace, it will have it. Oh yeah, I have this quote up here, don't I? Cool. Let me see it when I hit the right button. Nope, that's not it. Turn that back on. How about this one? There we go. Look at that. Yeah, when the world, I'm just going to read it up there. When the world really desires peace, it will have it, and not until then. Why not pray for peace, prosperity, and unity among all nations, and for the removal of every thought that obstructs or destroys universal prosperity and harmony? So that's kind of the first thing on our task list, is to pray. But interestingly enough, if you know your world history, 1931 wasn't too far away from, you know, Hitler and all the people that were thinking other ideas for what the world should be up to. And you know, some obvious tools that I'm sure many of you already use. I'm going to give you some new ones, but I just want to reinforce these obvious tools. One is to maintain, continue, or create your prayer and meditation practice. That's probably the best thing we can do, is keep doing that. If you're not doing it, get back on it. And of course, being in spiritual community. There's nothing like being part of a community of like-minded individuals and welcoming new people in all the time. And of course, number 2 is one I've been practicing since I wrote this talk, but it's always a good idea. Even though you can watch news 24/7, don't do that. I mean, that will warp your mind. It really will. So watch less TV, read. Most people don't read newspapers anymore, like the paper kind. A few people do, but don't do as much. You know, just check in, see what's going on, and back off. Go back into your meditation. And then this is my favorite, especially living in Colorado. I realized the other day, I've lived here more than half my life. Something like 48 years. I love Colorado. And I'm from Minnesota. That was great too, but Colorado has bigger mountains. Oh wait, Minnesota doesn't have any. Spending time in nature. You know, there's nothing like sitting by a stream and watching the water flow, or trees, or mountains, or whatever works for you. It really does help. And, you know, I was delighted when I ran across this quote from, it wasn't my very first concert in the 70s, but it was maybe the second. And this quote is from Carlos Santana. Remember him? He's still around, by the way. He said, the most powerful weapon you can be is an instrument of peace. And of course, I think we might have this quote. Let's see. Oh no, that's too soon. We'll get to that. What he said, or this reminds us, of course, of the beautiful prayer from St. Francis. You all have heard this, but I just wanted to read it. I think it's good to just let it sink in, you know, into your heart, your soul, your mind. He said, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me so love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. To be understood as to understand. to be loved as to love. For it is in the giving that we receive. It is in the pardoning that we are pardoned. You know, more marching orders for us to maintain that perfect peace. And then here is the quote I found, Dr. Marjorie Staum, one of my colleagues, who has since transitioned into the next life, loved Norman Vincent Peale. But I love this quote. He says, become a possibilitarian. I can say that with just half a denture. Become possibilitarian no matter how dark things seem to be or actually are. Raise your sights and see possibilities. Always see them, for they're always there. No doubt about it. There's always more possibilities. You know, one of the things I noticed as an architect for nearly 30 years, that's what that job was all about, being a possibilitarian. You know, whenever I would meet with a client, I would show them whatever I had just created, and they said, well, yeah, that's okay, but could you flip it? I said, sure. And I flip it. I said, well, how about this way? I said, sure, we can do that. And we got tons of repeat business because we were possibilitarians. We would listen to the client and help them create that which they were just dreaming of. So what I'm going to do today is give you 4 tools, maybe new ones, maybe just reminders, because you already know all this stuff anyway. But I love using the word. And then for each letter in the word, because it helps me remember, for each letter I'll give you a tool. So the word I'm going to use today is calm. Seems to work with peace. And the first letter there is C, and that stands for compassion. It's probably one of those tools that we could really use right now is to be more compassionate. You know, His High Holiness, the Dalai Lama, said his religion is compassion. And I'm with him on that. I have found over the years that compassion is the biggest thing we can bring to any conversation, any interaction, any relationship. And, you know, Joel Goldsmith, a great New Thought writer, said, only a consciousness which has lost its fear and hatred of the externals, whatever's up there, only a consciousness ever aware of the divine gentle spirit will be a healing influence in our affairs and to those in the world in which we live. So to bring compassion every day to your world, it so requires us to maybe do a daily reading, pause, you know, in prayer, listen to some really great music. You know, whatever helps you remember that I'm more than an architect or a minister or a father or a husband or a son. You know, I'm a spiritual being having this human experience. So can I bring with me that compassion? And of course, the biggest compassion I see that we need to exercise today is to be compassionate around people's fears. A lot of what is challenging us today is people's fear. And, you know, when we're consumed by fear, it just disrupts peace. You know, fear is the great disruptor of peace. You know, you often hear the 2 4-letter words. Not what you're thinking. Love or fear, right? So we get to bring love wherever we go. And when we're triggered by somebody else's fear, guess what? If you can feel it in your body, it's yours. You know, I've been facilitating the inner child journey forever, since I was like 3. No, about 38 years, something like that, 35 years maybe. Seems like a long time, but that's the work that we would do in there, is help people get on the other side of their fears. And, you know, if we want to become a more compassionate person, we get to do our own inner work. I love what one of my colleagues, who is also retired in France, he lives in Lyon, but he posts really great quotes every now and then. This one was, he posted that people often ask Dr. Carl Jung, will we make it? And what they were referring to was the cataclysm of their time. And he would always reply, if enough people will do their inner work. So, the more that's going on all around us, that's the calling to do our own inner work. Now, how does that help? I think it helps immensely, as a matter of fact. And he said the soul work is the one thing that will pull us through any emergency. So again, that's our task. That's the work we get to do. So if you're wondering what you can do in the world, you do your own work. What's still triggering me? As I mentioned, for 35 years, we've been doing this inner child work. It's that inner work that assists us to let go of the things that are in our way of remembering who we are and why we came to this planet. Why were we birthed? And Tina, my lovely wife here, and I came to the church in Colorado Springs specifically to do this work. I was in recovery at the time, and it was clear I had work to do. I mistrusted a lot of people and didn't like church, so that was already something to work on. And if I was ever going to be a minister, of course I didn't think that when I walked in the doors. But I tell you, that work that we did for 35 years in the inner child journey, we witnessed thousands of people up and down the Front Range, all the way into New Mexico, various places that we would go. And I watched people transform. So why do I share this with you? I'm sure Reverend Leah is going to create some inner work, through workshops, through her messages. I already know that she's working on a talk next week that's about releasing our limitations and our fears. What a great, I had no idea that's what she was doing until I saw the slide. And what a great thing that is to do that inner work. And, I know Mile High is still doing the inner child journey. If that sort of thing interests you, we just travel more now, so it doesn't always fit in. And we've done a lot of that work, and it was great. Wonderful. Well, the next tool in CALM is for the A, and that's a very simple three-letter word, and. Where did I get that? It was actually from some improv work that we've done. There's a tool in improv called yes and. Yes, comma, and. And our good friend, Erica Teal, who is the wife of Dr. Roger Teal, who was my boss, the senior minister of Mile High Church, both Tina and Erica worked with Alan Arkin, great actor, came to Mile High and taught improv. And when I took it, I loved yes, comma, and. Yes is a powerful statement. It's just acknowledging what is. I think we have a hard time as human beings just acknowledging what is. This is what is. It's just what's so. That's before the comma. Now after the comma is the and. And that is a powerful word that basically opens us up to the possibilities. We can once again become a possibilitarian. I've practiced that word with my teeth in. If I take my teeth out, I sound a little bit like Leroy from Mississippi. No offense if somebody's from Mississippi. I don't know Leroy. But it is funny. And at least my wife thinks so. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. When we get to and, we open ourselves up to what's possible. And there are so many things possible. If you remember this quote from the guy that has a whole lot more hair than me, he's not alive anymore, Albert Einstein. Didn't he always say we cannot fix the problems before us with the same thinking that got us into it? Well, that's what yes and is. We need to open up, probably more so right now than ever, to what is possible, what's the end. And of course, from the Unity founder, Charles Fillmore, he said there are opportunities everywhere, just as there has always been. Now, I'm not used to doing this whole thing here. Let's see if I've said any of this. I have. Look at that. Only a consciousness which has lost its fear and hatred of externals, everywhere the divine gentle spirit will be healing the influence in your affairs. I love these slides. They still do. They're beautiful. And of course, what did I just say? Yes, and is about opening to all possibilities. There are opportunities everywhere, just as there have always been. I know that, there's a lot of doomsday acolytes that aren't. They don't believe in the possibilities. They just want to go back to the way things always were or are, whatever. I don't think they were that great. The way things were. And we can make them even better. But we have to think anew. Move on, move forward. And that's our task. I don't know what the next slide is. No, we don't want to do that yet. It's a wonderful thing, y'all. But this one I wanted to also read is from a 1955 article in Science Mind magazine from Dr. Ernest Holmes. This is after the Korean War. And I just was curious what he was saying during all these wars, because, he was born in 1890 and lived to 1960. The Mile High Charter was the last one he signed before he passed. Anyway, this is what he said. He said, I presume that everyone would rather have peace than anything else on earth. If everyone really is desiring peace, and if desire were an effective prayer, we had it by now. He says there are not many people in the world who are opposed to having peace. I think that's still true. All I have said applies to war and peace, for we are discussing the possibility of a spiritual power which, consciously used and directed, can change the destiny of the world. So we want peace on earth? Well then, let us pray for it. Let us pray for peace in our own hearts and our own lives. Let us affirm peace in our own minds and live as though peace were the mandate of God. I think it is. So now I can go to that next slide, because the L in calm is for love. And, we see lots of t-shirts and posts on Facebook. Love is love, love not hate. There's just so many expressions of love, and it's the greatest power of healing that there is. And, I've certainly experienced that myself. I'm 30 years sober. I'm almost 5.5 years cancer-free. And, it isn't just the medicines I've taken or the meetings I've gone to. It's the love of the people around me. It's the love of my prayer partners, who I call the God Squad. Everybody should have a God Squad, by the way. It really does work. It's amazing what that does. And of course, Jesus, he gave us a commandment. He was all about it. It was the big one, and it's one people still struggle with. You'll know it in a minute. Love one another as I have loved you. Whew, that was a tall order, and that's been going on a long time, and we still struggle with it. And Charles Fillmore in 1956 said this: it's a law of spirit that we must be that which we would draw to us. If we would draw to us love, oh, there it is. How about that? We must be love. Because we can't draw to us unless we are it. And be loving and kind. If we would have peace and harmony in our environment, we must establish it within ourselves. Again, marching orders. It isn't something necessarily. We're going to do stuff out there too, but it's really about what are we doing for our inner work. And of course, I love what Martin Luther King Jr. said. I don't know if I have this quote. We'll see. No. I'm going to go back. This is what Martin Luther King said, and I resonate with this. He says, "I refuse to accept the view that humankind is so tragically bound to violence that the bright daybreak of peace can never become a reality. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word." I know this is about the end of July. It was the end of June. Tina and I had been to the Pride event in Denver several years because my hospital where I got my chemo treatment was just right there by Cheeseman Park. So the first time we walked over, wasn't quite strong enough to walk the route. But this year, Tina with her ankle surgery, and so she had that knee scooter, which looked like a lot of fun, but a good thing it had a brake on it. But we marched in the Pride Parade. Now, I want to be honest, I was a little nervous because there have been a lot of violence toward the GLBT groups around the country. So I'm going, are we putting our life in danger? How's this going to go? It's never happened before, but could it happen this year? And I tell you what, we decided to do it because we wanted to take a stand as allies for our brothers and sisters who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah. And we have so many really close friends. And I know they appreciate it, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And I think it's going to take that kind of courageous stepping up to be the love that we want to see in the world to have it make a difference. Now, if you've never been to the Pride Parade in Denver, it's definitely pretty cool. It's the first time we actually walked the whole length. But I want to say, in retrospect, it wasn't longer than walking the Magic Kingdom with our grandkids in March. We walked a whole lot further. And, but I tell you what, it was just so soul satisfying to be present, to be supportive, and to be there. And I read later that there was 300,000 people between the marchers, the people along Colfax, and the people all the way around the state capitol. It was amazing. Yeah, very cool. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to talk about the M. Whoop, I didn't hit the button right. There it goes. The M in calm. What that stands for is meeting eye to eye. When I first showed up in 1987, August something, Tina had gone to check out the church, see if it was going to be okay. And that was for like 2 weeks, and I finally went. Because before that, I went to the Church of St. Mattress. And every Sunday, I was diligent with staying at the St. Mattress. But I knew recovery and the inner child work was going to be fabulous. What I didn't expect is what Marie said at the beginning of our service today, that we accept all people. And, I'd never heard that before. I grew up in a different kind of religion, and it wasn't that way. As a matter of fact, if you walked across the street and went to another church, you'd go to hell, and let alone LGBTQ. It wasn't a real friendly environment. And so to hear those words that we accept all people, it just floored me. I mean, literally, I think I fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe it. There's actually a spiritual center that believes in accepting all people. It just blew me away. Now, I think that's our greatest strength. If you don't feel that, that's okay too. And you know what? We may not agree with everyone. That doesn't mean we don't accept them. But meeting eye to eye is where we find common ground. As an architect, I got to work with lots of people I didn't agree with. But I would always find a way to find common ground. Well, how can we relate? When we travel around the country in our RV, trust me, Not everybody is somebody we would agree with, but I'm more than willing to sit down and have a conversation. You know, in the camp chairs and all that. It's amazing. First of all, you're all our leaders, so we already got that going. But we could find other things that we had for common ground. You know, in the newest sanctuary of Mile High Church, I'm convinced Dr. Roger hired me not just because he heard me speak and he knew that I was an inner child journey facilitator, that sort of thing, but also being an architect, and he wanted to build a new sanctuary. Yeah, that's why he did that. And, you know, while I was working with the architects, I loved working with the architects because I got to tell them what to do instead of me having to do it. I love that part. Change of hats, right? But what myself and the architects and Dr. Roger and others, we decided that we wanted to use a sacred architectural shape in the new sanctuary. If you've ever been there, you may not have looked up. That's what you would have to do. Because right in the center of the sanctuary is a thing called a vesica Pisces. I'm saying that as best as I can with one set of teeth. You can look it up. It's Latin. But what it means, well, first of all, it's the shape of the human eye. And we travel to Europe, not just in our RV. And I love going into the cathedrals in Europe. You will see the Vesica Pisces in most of the churches and cathedrals. And what does it stand for? It's where we meet eye to eye. It's where we find common ground. They could have used some of that in the Crusades, you know? If you were thinking about this is the worst of times, not so much. They've been worse. Anyway, we put that in there, and you know what I always thought was interesting is the Catholic Church I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, the sanctuary is built like a Vesica Pisces. I'm not sure they knew that. It was good, you know, and we would find common ground, you know, because my priest, he skied, and I would move to Colorado, so we'd have those conversations. And Reverend T.D. Jakes, if you've ever heard of him, a preacher in Dallas, he said this: I like to see myself as a bridge builder. That is me building bridges between people, between races, between cultures, between politics, always trying to find common ground. My last quote on this is, I'm not sure if that'll show up here. Oh, that's pretty. There's that nature thing. See if there's a quote. No, we're just going to go back here. I like that. We'll just go with that. Anyway, the first woman Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, who has since passed, said this: no matter what message you are about to deliver somewhere, whether it is holding out a hand of friendship or making it clear that you disapprove of something, is the fact that the person sitting across the table from you is a human being. So the goal is always to establish common ground. You know, I believe our greatest hope for peace in our relationships and maintaining that perfect peace within us is how we go about finding common ground. I've always called it finding our similarities and honoring our differences. That's a tall task, but I think it's what lay before us. And you know, this business of finding common ground, I found this story. There's tons of them out there. But this woman, her name is Jenny Martin. She totally gets the yes and. She's still working since 2006 at the San Jose Children's Museum. She created a group at that museum in 2006 called Breaking Ground. And what she created was a place where everybody had a seat at the table, and they had the opportunity to dream, to delight in the differences, and to find common ground through cooking and sharing dinners. When you all go to your dinners or have your potlucks, that's a great task, is to find what commonalities you have, and maybe what differences. We all have both. And what she did is she invited people from the 5 largest immigrant groups in San Jose, California, to get to know them instead of demonizing them, getting to know them and welcoming them in the community. You know, this and so much more, I think, is what creates the calm and that inner peace that we all seek. You know, the compassion, that yes and, you know, being open to possibilities, being a possibilitarian, bringing love everywhere we go, and meeting eye to eye. The way I want to close today is, we'll close our eyes and go within, but I'm not going to do a prayer. I can, but I want to read Dr. Ernest Holmes' prayer for world peace. I think it's as important today as it's ever been. This is what he wrote. I know there is but one mind, which is the mind of God, in which all people live and move and have their being. I know there is a divine pattern for humanity, and within this pattern there is infinite harmony and peace, cooperation, unity, and mutual helpfulness. I know that the mind of each person being one with the mind of God shall discover the method, the way, and the means best fitted to permit the flow of divine love between individuals and nations. I know there shall be a free interchange of ideas, of cultures, of spiritual concepts, of ethics, of educational systems, and scientific discoveries, for all good belongs to all alike. I know that because the divine mind has created us all, we are bound together in one infinite and perfect unity. In bringing about world peace, I know that all people and all nations will remain individual, but unified for the common purpose of promoting peace, happiness, harmony, and prosperity. I know that deep within every person the divine pattern of perfect peace is already implanted. I now declare that in each person and the leaders of thought everywhere this divine pattern moves into action and form, to the end that all nations and all people shall live together in peace, harmony, and prosperity forever. And now, if you haven't already closed your eyes and gone within, I open up this room to that possibilitarian that lives within each person right here, right now. And that I know the vibration of that word, of the concepts that I have spoken of, already moving in your mind to the possibilities that align your life. You know, whether it be relationship or jobs or right living place or the right relationship, I know that this law of mind, this mind of God, moves, lives, and has its being through each person in this room right now. And that whatever you dream, you are. You can be and are that perfect expression of spirit. For all this and so much more, I give thanks knowing that we indeed are all beings of spirit, living life for that divine intelligence, that divine life, that divine being. That is who we are and what we are all part of. I give thanks for it. Know it is done. And so let it be. And I invite us to say together, and so it is. Amen.
I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Stand and sing with us. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the
Can I do that?
Yes.
Excellent. Just lost my balance. So I'm ready to go, and then I wasn't ready to go. It did. Yeah. So thank you, Reverend Lance. Thank you very much. And we appreciate you being here. We believe that abundance in our lives results from giving, and the law of circulation which says, just like it said, as we give, we receive. We believe that giving is a spiritual decision rather than a financial one, and it's a spiritual practice that enhances our life. I invite you to share your gifts and tithes and offering, knowing this truth. Please say it together with me the offertory affirmation. Here it is. This gift is spirit form, circulating, blessing all it touches. Freely I give, and joyfully I receive.
All right. So our first song is a little bit more about making peace in the world. And this is another Dead Talent song, so I'm obsessed with Dead Talent now. It's more about making peace within yourself. It's called comfort.
When everyone has gone to sleep and you are wide awake, there's no one left to tell your troubles to. Just an hour ago, you listened to their voices, melting like a river over underground. And the light from downstairs came up soft like daybreak, dimly as the heartache of a lonely child. And if you can't remember a better time, you can have mine, little one. On the days to come, when your heart feels undone, may you always find an open hand. Take comfort wherever you can again.
So if you're here for the first time, welcome. It's not always like this. I'm not always up here, thank heaven. But we're very glad you joined us. If you're comfortable raising your hand, the ushers will give you a little welcome packet, and we see you and we appreciate you and we welcome you. And if you would like a welcome packet, you can raise your hand. And if you wouldn't like a welcome packet, that's okay too. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Okay, we have a practitioner available after service for prayer and prayer requests in the back. And we are going to say our closing benediction together. Ready? Please stand for the benediction and the closing song. Reverend Leah will be back next week and I'll be back. May we be at peace. May our hearts remain open. May we awaken to the light of our own true nature. May we be healed, and may we be a source of healing for all beings. Love is who I am, love is who we are,